Chapter 35: The Power of Thoughts, Feelings, and the Will. Sending and receiving thoughts and its effects. There are forces invisible to human sight and unknown to the science of man, which constantly influence your lives. There are those which are good and those which are bad, some which give you health and others which cause illnesses. There are some filled with light and others with darkness. From where do these forces arise? From the spirit, disciples, from the mind, and from feelings. Every incarnated and disincarnated spirit emanates vibrations when it thinks. Every emotion exerts an influence. You can be sure that the world is filled with these vibrations. Now you can easily understand that healthy forces and influences must exist where people think and dwell in goodness, and that where they live outside of the laws and regulations, which are determined by goodness, justice, and love, there must exist evil forces. Both of them invade the spiritual space, struggle with each other, and influence the sensitivity of men. If men know how to distinguish between them, they take the good inspirations and reject those influences which are evil. But if the men are weak and not prepared in the practice of righteousness, they are unable to confront these vibrations and are in danger of succumbing to their dominance and becoming slaves of evil. Everything spiritual in the universe is a fountain of light, visible or invisible to you. That light is strength, it is power, it is inspiration. From the ideas, words, and deeds, light also emanates, according to the purity and elevation that they have. The more elevated the idea or the deed, the more delicate and gentle the vibration and inspiration which emits from it. Although it is also more difficult for the slaves of materialism to perceive it, nevertheless, the effect which is exerted spiritually by the thoughts and elevated deeds is great. When from your mind emerges an idea or a thought of light, in that manner it reaches its objective to fulfill its beneficial mission. If instead of kind thoughts, impure emanations surge from your mind, they will only cause harm wherever you send them. I say to you that thoughts are deeds, and as such they remain written in the book which exists in your conscience. If your deeds are good or bad, you will receive multiplied what you wished for your brethren. But it is better to do yourself some harm than to wish it upon one of your fellow men. That is why during the second era I said to you, what you sow, you reap, for it is necessary that you be aware of your experiences in this life, and that you remember that your harvest will give you back the same seed that you sowed, although multiplied. O humanity, how you have neglected to meditate, feel, or live the teachings of your Master. That is why I have told you that you did not know the strength of thought. Today I tell you that thought is voice and hearing. It is a weapon and a shield. It creates and destroys. Thought cuts the distance to those who are absent and finds those who had been lost. Know your weapons before the battle commences. He who knows how to prepare himself will be strong and invincible. It will not be necessary to wield mortal weapons. Your sword will be thought pure and clean. Your sword will be thought pure and clean. Your shield faith and charity. Even in silence, your voice will resound as a message of peace. Keep vigil, being careful not to stain your mind with impure thoughts. The mind is creative, and when you give space to an evil idea, it will lead you to the lower planes and your spirit will be surrounded with darkness. The joint thoughts of a multitude will be capable of striking down evil influences, toppling idols from their pedestals. Today, I can assure you that in the future, communication through thought will reach great development, and through it, many barriers that today separate peoples and worlds will disappear. If you learn to communicate in thought with your Father, if you achieve spirit to spirit communication, what difficulty could there then be in communicating with your brothers, be they visible or invisible, present or absent, and nearby or far away? Your thoughts are always come to me, no matter how imperfect they are, and I hear your prayers even if they lack the faith that you should always put in them. This is because my spirit captures the vibrations and feelings of all beings. However, men who find themselves distant from others by their selfishness and distant from spiritual life by the materialism that they have allowed themselves to be wrapped in today are not prepared to communicate with others by means of their thoughts. Nonetheless, I tell you that it is necessary to begin to educate your spirit. To do so, speak to the spirits, even if you have no apparent answer from them. Tomorrow, when you have all learned to give, you will begin to have indications of a spiritual communication never imagined by men. The strength of feelings, desires, and fears. At every moment, you are vibrating mentally and spiritually, but most of the time, you radiate selfishness, hatred, violence, vanity, and the lower passions. You wound and feel it when you are wounded, but you do not love, and so you do not feel it when you are loved. So, with your insane thoughts, you go saturating the environment in which you live with pain, filling your existence with ill feeling. I tell you, saturate all with peace, harmony, and love, and then you will be happy. Never think ill of those who do not love you, nor become exasperated with those who do not understand you. For even the most closely held of the feelings you have toward your fellow men is transmitted with your thought. Do you see those men who seek power through force? Very soon, you will see them convinced of their error. I will demonstrate to them that solely through goodness, which is the emanation of love, one can be truly great and powerful. You need faith to raise your faces smiling with hope and look forward to the future without doubts or mistrust, for I am in your future. How often are you ill because you think you are, because you believe every step touched by faith, or menaced by pain? That is when your mind attracts the darkness, and with it surrounds your material life and your spiritual journey. Yet here you have me to reignite your faith in life, truth, eternity, and perfect peace, and to teach you to once more to attract the light to yourselves. The lack of self-control. Man has two weaknesses. He makes no effort to remove his blindfolds in order to study my elevated spiritual teachings, nor does he want to separate himself from those material pleasures that prevent his spiritual progress. Thus he has become a slave to his selfish pleasures. His spirit is like a paralyzed human being who makes no effort to heal himself. In all walks of life, wherever I look, I see the majority of men as being weak. What does that mean? That you do not have enough strength of will to escape from the mire in which you find yourselves, or from the laziness caused by the bonds that tie you to the material, and that is the beginning of all vices and errors. But men do not wish to make use of the power which they have been given, which is the will that should be the supreme legislator, which ought to make itself obeyed, and in concert with reason, fight strength against strength, empire against empire. On one side the passions and desires, on the other reason and will, until the day reason and will win the final battle, and you can say that you are free. Then you can be the great prophets, the great enlightened ones, the supermen. Then you will be able to live among the beasts and play with reptiles. For truly I tell you, it is the faults covering you that make you fear these little brothers of yours, and it is because of these they attack you. Yet if you observe men, you will see there are men who are fiercer than tigers and more poisonous than cobras. My peace be with you. 9. The teachings of the divine wisdom. Chapter 36. Faith, truth, and understanding. The faith that can do all things. In order to master weakness, smallness, misery, passions, and to destroy all doubt, faith and good deeds are indispensable and are virtues that triumph over the impossible. Before them, what is difficult and unattainable disappears like shadows. I said to men who believed in me during the second era, your faith has saved you. Thus I announced it because faith is a healing power. It is a force which transforms, and its light destroys all darkness. Those who are still far from spirituality would like to behold me in the form of Jesus to say to me, Father, I believe in you because I have seen you. I will say to them, Blessed are those who without seeing have believed, for they have given proof that thanks to their spirituality, they have felt me within their heart. I wish you to note what faith is, so that you understand that he who possesses it is owner of an incomparable treasure. He who lives illuminated by that interior light, no matter how poor the world considers him to be, will never feel like a pariah, abandoned, weak, or lost. His faith in the Father, in life, in his destiny, and even in himself will never let him waken in the struggle, and he will always be able to perform great and awesome works. Faith is like a beacon that illuminates your path until you arrive at the secure door of eternity. Faith cannot be that shown by those timid and fearful spirits who today advance a step and tomorrow turn back, who do not wish to struggle with their own pain, trusting in the triumph of the Spirit only through the charity of the Father. Faith is that which the Spirit feels, knowing that God is in him, who loves his Lord and enjoys feeling him within himself, and who loves his brothers, having such faith in the justice of the Father, that he does not wait for his brothers to love him, who pardons offenses and errors, but who tomorrow will be filled with light, because by his merits he has achieved his purification. He who has faith has peace, possesses love, and is filled with goodness. He is rich in faith, and even in the material world, but with true wealth, not that of which you conceive. I will tell you the test that shows true faith exists. The heart is not troubled in times of trial, and peace inundates the spirit in the supreme moments of peril. He who has faith in his harmony is in harmony with me, for I am life, health, and salvation. He who genuinely seeks this port and this beacon shall not perish. He who possesses this virtue performs prodigies beyond all human science, and gives testimony of the Spirit and of the higher life. The recognition of the truth of God When the heart contains good faith and the mind is free of prejudices or confused ideas, life is appreciated more, and the truth is seen with greater clarity. In contrast, when the heart bears skepticism, or there are vanity and errors in the mind, all appears confused, and even the light itself appears as darkness. Seek truth, it is life, but seek it with love, with humility, with perseverance and faith. Pray, and in your prayer ask questions of your Father, and in meditation you will receive the ray of my infinite light. Do not expect to receive all of the truth in one single instant. There are spirits that have walked for much time in search of the truth, studying and trying to penetrate all the mysteries, but which have not yet achieved their desired goal. Christ the Anointed came to show you the road, telling you, love one another. Can you imagine the reach of that sublime commandment? All the life of man would be transformed if you lived by that doctrine. Love alone is that which can reveal the truths of the arcane, because it is the origin of your lives and of all created. Seek the truth with zeal and seek the meaning of life. Love strengthens you in the good, and you shall see how step by step all that is false, impure, or imperfect shall fall from you. Each day, be more sensitive to the light of divine grace, for then you will be able to ask the Lord directly all that you wish to know, and that is necessary for your spirit in order to reach the supreme truth. I am the Word that comes in search of men, for they have been unable to come to me. It is my truth that I come to reveal to you, for truth is the kingdom I wish all of you to enter. But how can you find the truth if I do not first tell you that many renunciations are required? At times, to find truth, it is necessary to renounce all that you possess, to renounce even yourself. The vain, the materialist, and the indolent cannot know truth if they do not destroy the walls within which they live. It is necessary that they dominate their passions and weaknesses to look directly at my light. Blessed is he who seeks truth, because he is thirsty for love, light, and kindness. Seek, and you shall find. Seek truth, and it shall come out to meet you. Continue to meditate, and continue asking questions of the arcane, and he will answer. For the Father has never remained quiet or indifferent before he who eagerly asks of him. How many who seek the truth in books, among the wise, and in the diverse sciences will end up finding it in themselves, since in the depths of each man I have deposited a seed of eternal truth. I cannot deceive you. I never act falsely. I never hide in darkness. My truth is always naked. But if men have not been able to see the nakedness of my spirit, it is because they have not wished to. I do not hide my truth with any vestment. My nakedness is divine and pure. My nakedness is holy, and I shall show it to all the beings of the universe. Symbolizing this, I came naked into the world as a man, and also left it naked. I wish that among mine there is always truth, for I am and will always be in your truth. I wish that there be love among you, and my love will always be in your love. Only one truth exists, and one true love, and that truth and that love are in you. Your love and your truth shall be mine, and my truth and my love shall be yours. My light is in all consciences. You are already in the era when my spirit will spill out over mankind. And so I tell you that soon all of you shall feel my presence, the wise equally with the ignorant, the great like the small, and the powerful as the poor. One and all will tremble before the truth of the true living God. The recognition of the spiritual and divine. It is impossible for one of my children to forget me, since he carries in his spirit the conscience which is the light of my spirit, and through which sooner or later he must recognize me. It is easy for some to comprehend the meaning of my word and to find the light there, but to others my word remains a mystery. I say to you that not everyone will be able to understand the spiritual essence of my message in this time. Those who do not succeed in doing so will have to wait new times for their spirits to open their eyes to the light of my revelations. If I say to you that my wisdom shall be yours, do you believe that only one existence would be sufficient to know all that I have to reveal to you? If I say that you will not acquire the human science without traveling the extensive road of evolution, much less will you be able to acquire the knowledge of the spiritual without the complete evolution of your spirit. I do not come to put spirituality into conflict with science, because that mistake has been of men, but never mine. On the contrary, I come to teach you to harmonize the spiritual with the material. What is human with the divine? What is temporary with the eternal? Nevertheless, I declare to you that to travel the pathways of life, it is necessary to know beforehand the path that your conscience outlines, whose spiritual law proceeds from the divine spirit. You have fallen so far and distanced yourself so far from the spiritual that you consider supernatural all that, because it pertains to the spirit, is completely natural. This is how you refer to the divine, and is how you see all that pertains to your spirits, and that is an error. What has happened is that you see and perceive only what is close to your senses or within reach of your human intelligence, and what is beyond the senses and the mind you have considered supernatural. The man who seeks the light of wisdom in nature, as well as he who seeks my wisdom in spiritual revelations, shall have to travel on his own feet the road where he finds the truth that he could not find on other paths. It is for that reason that I have sent your spirit to live life after life here on earth, so that through your evolution and experience you discover all that there is in it and in what surrounds it. If you wish, scrutinize my words, but then study and observe life through them, so that you can see the truth that is contained in all I have told you. There will be times when it seems to you that there is a contradiction between what I tell you today and what was revealed to you in past times. But there is not. The confusion is in men, but you soon shall come to the light. Conditions for spiritual recognition. Humility is the light of the Spirit, and on the contrary, the lack of it is darkness. Vanity is the fruit of ignorance. He who is great through wisdom and worthy through virtue has true modesty and spiritual humility. Let all evil thoughts fall away from you, and attract the noble thoughts. Happiness is not in the material things you possess, but in the spirituality that you know. To know is to possess and practice. He who truly knows is humble of spirit, not prideful with the earthly wisdom that aspires to know all, but denies all that it does not understand. He who bears the light of inspired knowledge knows how to receive revelations in their due time, and how to wait for them. Many have called themselves wise, but the sun that shines brilliantly on them day after day has been a mystery to them. Many have believed that they knew all, yet truly I tell you that even the ants that cross the road unnoticed bear a mystery which is unfathomable to them. Men may investigate many of the marvels of nature, but while they do not do it through the path of divine love, they shall not come to the true wisdom enclosed in the immortal life of the Spirit. Search for our spiritual light. From the beginning, I conceded to man the liberty of thought, but he has always been a slave, sometimes due to his fanaticism and on other occasions because of the false beliefs of Pharaoh or Caesar. That is why in this time, faced with the freedom that the Spirit is achieving and the clarity that is presented to his eyes, he is blinded by the light, for his mind is not used to that liberty. Man had reduced the strength of his understanding of the spiritual, and fell therefore into fanaticism, walked on twisted paths, and was like a shadow of the will of others. He had lost his liberty, and was not the owner of either himself nor of his thoughts. But the era of light has arrived, the time when you are to break the chains and extend your wings to fly free toward the infinite in search of truth. This century in which you live presents two sides. One is the evolution of the mind, and the other is the stagnation of the spirit. Truly, the divine light shines upon the understanding, and for that reason from it arises my great inspiration, whose fruits astonish humanity. It is because the mind seeks freedom and expansion. Man deepens his study of nature. He scrutinizes, discovers, enjoys, and is awed, but never hesitates. But when in him the idea of clarifying matters related to the spiritual rises, of matters related to the truth beyond the material one, he knows, then he is found fearful, afraid to penetrate the unknown into what he believes is prohibited, permitted only to those elevated beings worthy of learning about the arcane of God. There he has shown himself clumsy and weak, unable to defeat by act of will the prejudices that oppress him. The development of human intelligence will never be complete until it happens on the spiritual plane. See how great the backwardness of your spirit is. Because you have consecrated your knowledge to the earthly life, man is a slave to the will of others, a victim of anathema, condemnations, and threats, and what has he achieved with this? The abandonment of all his yearnings to understand, and achieve the highest knowledge that man must have, preventing himself from being able to achieve the clarification of what he has absurdly always supposed to be a mystery, the spiritual life. Do you believe that the life of the Spirit will always be an enigma to men on earth? If so, then you have fallen into a great error. Truly I tell you, that while you do not know your origin, and ignore all that is related to the Spirit, for all the advancement of your sciences, you will not move beyond creatures that inhabit the small world. Among the plants and animals, you continue to foster enmities by your wars, and over your lives, pain will continue to rule. If you do not discover what you carry within you, nor the spiritual brother that inhabits each of your neighbors, will you be able to love truly? No, humanity, though you say that you know and follow me, if you take my doctrine lightly, your faith, your knowledge, and your love will be false. In me, men will find the courage to emancipate themselves from the yoke of their ignorance. How can you hope that on earth there is peace and an end to wars, that men regenerate and sin diminishes, if they lack the spiritual knowledge that is the basis, the principle, and the foundation of life. Truly I tell you that to the extent that you do not understand and practice my truth, your existence on the earth will be like a building constructed on shifting sands. I come to man to tell him that he does not truly know himself because he has not penetrated his own inner self and does not know its secret because he ignores its essence. Yet in this era, I wish to teach him the content of the book that has for so long been close to him, and in which are guarded all the mysteries that since the second era I promised to come to explain with the light of my spirit. Only now will you truly penetrate and know the inner depths of your spirit, and then you will be able to say that you have begun to know who you are. Man shall come to know his origin, his destiny, his mission, his gifts, and all the infinite and eternal life that vibrates around him. He will no longer be able to offend his fellow man or make attempts on the lives of his brothers, nor dare to profane any of that which surrounds him, for he will have come to realize that all is sacred. He shall come to know what he bears within, hidden in his spirit, and it will be then that he will have a clear idea and a profound faith that if the spirit is marvelous, so too must be the dwelling that his Father has destined for him in eternity. My peace be with you. Chapter 37. Correct Understanding of the Biblical Text. The interpretation of the Word and promises of the Bible. Men have dedicated themselves to scrutinize the ancient testaments, torturing their minds in the study and interpretation of the prophecies and the promises. Those among them who have come closer to the truth are the ones who have found the spiritual meanings of my teachings, because those who still persist in a material interpretation and do not know or do not wish to find the spiritual meaning of my manifestations will have to suffer confusions and disappointments, just as the Jewish people suffered upon the arrival of the Messiah, whom they had imagined and awaited in a manner unlike the truth which was manifested to them. The erroneous idea that mankind formed of my justice in the earliest times will disappear definitively to give way to true knowledge of it. Divine justice shall finally be understood as the light that emanates from the perfect love that exists in your Father. That God men believe to be vengeful, cruel, rancorous, and inflexible will be felt in the depths of their hearts, as a father who in exchange for the offenses of his children offers forgiveness, the father who persuades the sinner with tenderness, as the judge who instead of condemning him, who has gravely erred, providing him with a new opportunity for salvation. How many imperfections men attribute to me in their ignorance, believing me capable of feeling anger, even though anger is a merely human weakness. If the prophet spoke to you of the holy anger of God, I tell you now, interpret that expression as the divine justice. The men of the first era would not have understood it in any other way. Neither the dissolute nor the libertines would have paid any attention to the admonishments of the prophets if they had not been spoken to in that form. It was necessary that the inspiration of my envoys be expressed in terms that would impress the brains and hearts of those men of little spiritual development. The scriptures of the first era gathered the history of the people of Israel, conserving the names of their children, their accomplishments and failings, their works of faith and their weakness, their splendor and their faults, so that book would speak to each new generation of the evolution of the people in the worship of the sacred. The book preserved the names of the virtue and justice, loving patriarchs, models of strength in faith, just as it did that of the far-seeing prophets, through whose mouths the Lord always spoke when he saw the people on the edge of some danger. It also gathered the names of the perverse, the traitors, and the disobedient. For each case, each example is a lesson, and at times a symbol. When I came as Jesus to live among men, only when it was necessary did I take from the essence of the scriptures, from the sense of those works, to give my lessons, never exalting the material and superficial. Do you not remember that I mentioned the righteous Abel, that I pondered the patience of Job, and mentioned the wisdom and splendor of Solomon? Is it not true that many times I remembered Abraham and spoke of the prophets, and referring to Moses, I told you that I did not come to destroy the law of Moses, but to fulfill it? You need to study the divine revelations that I have made to you throughout time, arrive at an understanding of the metaphoric language through which it spoke to you, and sensitize thereby your spiritual senses in order to understand which are the words of God and which the words of men, to find the essence of my teachings. Only through a spiritual point of view can you find the just and true interpretation of my word, whether it be that given through the prophets, those that came to you through the conduit of Jesus, or this one I give you today, through the spokesman of the third era. When this humanity has found the true meaning of the law, the doctrine, the prophecies, and the revelations, it will have found the most beautiful and deepest of that which is related to its existence. Then it will know true justice, and it will be then that its heart presents itself to the real heaven. Then too it will know the meaning of atonement, purification, and restitution. The scriptures of the past eras could reveal to you what I repeat to you today. But man has dared to falsify my truths by spreading them in adulterated form, and therefore you have a humanity spiritually ill, tired, and alone. For this reason, my voice crying, whining, is heard through my spokesman, for I do not wish you to enter into confusion. If to your hands come altered writings of my disciples, who in the second era pass on my word to you, I will make you recognize which are the true words of Jesus. Your conscience will regard as false those which are not in harmony with the divine concert of my love. Man has never lacked my revelations of spiritual enlightenment, but he has been afraid to analyze them. And I ask you, what can you know about the truth and eternal if you stubbornly continue to flee the spiritual? Look at the material interpretation you have given my revelations of the first and second eras, though they speak only of the divine and spiritual. Do you see how you confuse the material nature with the spiritual, and with what lack of respect you convert the profound to the superficial and the elevated into what is low? Why have you done that? Because wishing to participate in the work of God, You seek to adapt my doctrine to your material lives, to the human conveniences which are what most interests you. The lesson that I gave you in the second era, a lesson that many have not understood and others have forgotten, in this time will be made to be understood by all, and what is more, will be brought to fulfillment by my new teachings. The light of my Holy Spirit descends upon you, but why do you represent me in the form of a dove? Those figures and symbols should not be worshipped by my new disciples anymore. Understand my teaching, O my people. During that second era, my Holy Spirit manifested itself in the form of a dove in the baptism of Jesus, because that bird in its flight resembles the flight of the Spirit. Its whiteness speaks of purity, and in its sweet and gentle look there is a reflection of innocence. How would those unpolished men be made to understand the divine if it was not by adopting the figures known to them in the world? Christ, who speaks to you at this moment, was represented by a lamp, and John himself in his prophetic vision beheld me thus. All this is due to the fact that if you seek me in each one of my works, you will always find in all creation an image of the author of life. In that era I said to you that it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a wealthy miser to enter the kingdom of God. Now I say to you that it is necessary for those hearts to put aside their egotism and practice charity toward their brethren, in order for their spirit to be able to pass through the narrow path of salvation. It is not necessary to deprive themselves of possessions and riches, but only of their egotism. I am rebuilding the temple that I referred to when I said to my disciples, who marveled contemplating the temple of Solomon, verily I say to you, that of it there shall not be one stone left upon another, but I will reconstruct it in 3 days. I meant that in any external worship, regardless how sumptuous it may seem to mankind, will disappear from the heart of men in order to raise in its place the true spiritual temple of my divinity. This is the third era, or that is to say, the third day, in which I shall finish reconstructing my temple. God has no form, for if he had one, he would be limited, as are humans, and would not then be God. His throne is perfection, justice, love, wisdom, the creating force, and eternity. Heaven is the supreme happiness that the spirit arrives at by traveling the road to perfection, until it so elevates itself in wisdom and love, that reaches a state of purity, where neither sin nor pain can come. On some occasions, when my prophets have spoken of the spiritual life, they have done so through human forms and using objects known to you. The prophets saw thrones similar to those of the kings of earth, books and beings in human form, curtained palaces, candelabras, the lamp, and many other figures. Now, however, you should understand that all of that bore a meaning, a symbol, a divine sense, a revelation that had to be expressed to you in an allegorical form, since you were not prepared to understand another, more elevated one. Now it is time for you to correctly interpret the content of all the parables and teachings that I revealed to you in symbols, so that the significance of them penetrates your spirit and the symbolic form disappears. When you reach this understanding, your faith will be true because it will have been built on the foundation of truth. If all who have been called would come to the table of the Lord where the delicacies that nourish the spirit are served, the table would be complete, but not all the guests have arrived. It is the nature of men to not know how to respond to the gifts of God, and that is why you have seen many of your brothers pay no attention when you call them. Yet I tell you that these few who sit at my table and persist in listening in order to learn from me shall be those who make known to the multitudes the greatness of my word. The meaning of this doctrine that calls men to the reconstruction of a world that has come to its end in order to give way to another world that is brighter and more elevated. The revelation of Jesus through the Apostle John. Everything was written in the book of the seven seals, which is found within God, and whose existence was revealed to mankind through John, the apostle and prophet. The contents of that book only the divine Lamb has revealed to you. For there has not existed on earth or in heaven a just spirit who would be able to clarify the profound mysteries of love, of life and justice of God. But the divine Lamb, who is Christ, broke the seals which locked the book of life to reveal its contents to his children. If the book of the prophecies of John has been regarded by some as an unfathomable mystery and considered by others with an enormous, erroneous interpretation, it is because humanity has not yet attained the necessary spirituality to understand what is represented there. And I can also tell you that not even the prophet understood what was inspired to him. John heard and saw, and being ordered to write, instantly obeyed, but he understood the message to be for men who would come a long time after him. When will men fix their attention on that which my beloved disciple left written? The form in which the revelations are written is strange. Its sense is mysterious, and its words are infinitely profound. Who will understand them? The men who seek to understand the revelation of John analyze, observe, and study in deep absorption. Some come somewhat close to the truth. Others believe they have gotten the meaning of the revelation and so proclaim to the world. Others become confused or weary of seeking and end up denying the divine essence of the message. I come now to tell you, disciples of the third era, that if you truly wish to enter into that sanctuary and deeply understand those revelations, you must initiate yourselves into the prayer of spirit to spirit, just as John practiced in his exile. To begin with, you must understand that the divine revelation, although represented in material forms and figures, speaks entirely of the spiritual life of humanity, about its evolution, its struggle, its temptations and falls, and its profanations and disobediences. It speaks of my justice, my wisdom, and about my kingdom, my trials, and my communications with men, of their awakening, regeneration, and finally their spirituality. There I reveal the spiritual journey of men, divided into epochs, so that you might better understand the evolution of the Spirit. So, of course, disciples, if the revelation refers to your spiritual life, it is only right that you look at it and study it from a spiritual point of view. For if you take it to analyze in relation to material events only, you will end up confused like so many others. Certainly, many material occurrences are and will be related to the fulfillment of those revelations. But you must know that those signs and events are also forms, figures, and examples that come to aid you in understanding my truth and in helping you to fulfill your destiny of raising yourselves up to me. Through the road of cleanliness of the Spirit, of which my disciple John, advancing himself thousands of years over humanity, left you a luminous example by communicating spirit to spirit with his Lord. My peace be with you.